Good evening, and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian, and this is your other host,
Christina Fasonic, broadcasting live, of course, from Wheeling, West Virginia. How are you tonight, Damian?
I'm excited tonight. I am. We've got some very, I think, some very cool developments to talk about. So yeah. I'm excited.
Yes, not only do we have an awesome writer tonight, but we do have something to announce to everybody that has been following us and everybody that's tuning in tonight. Would you like to make that announcement?
I would like to make that announcement. So tonight, the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia, we are launching our literary journal. It is called Appalachian Lit. We are absolutely excited about this. We've got a wonderful team of genre editors. We've got terrific writers. People were so generous with their work in terms of giving us just really wonderful nonfiction, wonderful fiction, terrific poetry. We could not be more pleased. We had Mike Dittman finding some absolutely outstanding poetry from some of the region's best poets. We had Laura Roberts, who was our creative nonfiction editor, bringing us some terrific nonfiction. I helped out with the fiction, being a fiction writer and all. And Margot Orlando Littell, we got a wonderful, she's going to be our interviews person. She's a terrific conversation with Charles Dodd White. And Karen Wyand is our reviews editor. So we have, oh, look, it's up.
Yeah. I'm handy like that.
That is awesome. Yes, thank you. I was trying to do that. Look at that. So yeah, we've got terrific work from a broad array of, I think, some of the regions, some established folks and some folks are up and coming. So we could not be more pleased. We also have wonderful artwork from Greg Clare. We're going to be featuring art as well. So we could not be more pleased. Please go to AppalachianLit.com and check it out. Appalachian Lit. We're headquartered in the north, but we want to bring the best from all of Appalachia.
Yeah, so please stop by, visit, share. It's a free journal, no subscription required, and we will be opening submissions June 1st. So
next issue.
Polish your work. We'd love to welcome you and your work into this brand new publication. And thank you, Damian, for spearheading this as the editor, and I think that it's a wonderful compliment to the region. We need more publications for Appalachian literature.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that in my little editorial note, nearly 10% of the United States lives within Appalachia. We have an amazing, bunch of fictioneers, of poets, of visual artists, and I think it's I don't know. I feel very privileged to be involved in creating a forum, a place where some of those voices that need to be heard can be heard, in fact heard.
Yes. JD Vance does not speak for me. Despite what happened in Ohio. Anyways, so I can't think of anybody to have on a night like this, the debut of a new publication, publishing and celebrating Appalachian Lit, than our guest tonight. I first met Pauletta Hansel when I was a professor at Xavier University in Cincinnati. I had her come to campus and she did a reading and it was awesome. And let me tell you a little bit about her. She has 9 poetry collections, including Heartbreak Tree, a poetic exploration of the intersection of gender and place in Appalachia, published in 2022 by Madville Publishing, and Friend, Town Photograph and Palindrome, winner of the 2017 Weatherford Award for Best Appalachian Poetry, all from Madres Press. She is past managing editor of Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel, a journal that everybody at WANA loves. Her writing has been featured in Oxford American, Rattle, Appalachian Journal, Still the Journal, the Northern Appalachian Review, American Life and Poetry, Verse Daily, and Poetry Daily, among others. Pauletta was Cincinnati's first Poet Laureate and is the 2022 Writer in Residence for the Public Library of Cincinnati and Hamilton County. So let's bring Pauletta on.
Pauletta.
Good.
Damian. Hey, Christina. Thanks so much for having me. And I'm so excited about your journal. I can't wait to check it out and see all the cool things you have.
Oh, thanks. We're really excited about it too. And what are you going to read for us tonight?
I'm going to read from Heartbreak Tree, from the new book. I've chosen several poems that I hope people will like to hear, and I'm looking forward to sharing them.
Yes, I can't wait to hear. So we're going to pop out and we'll be back.
All right. Thanks. So I'm going to read, I think, 4 poems from Heartbreak Tree, mostly poems within a sequence of poems that are spread out throughout the book, each called Story, and each looking at some aspect of a story from my family. So I'll start with the first poem, Story. I don't mean to be ungrateful. I was bred for wanting more, the way a racehorse is bred for the wind's scent. Those impossible legs like winged twigs that will snap in a high wind. What moves us onward is the same sometimes as what breaks us to the ground. Here's a story about my grandfather that I don't like to tell. How he found a World War II deserter's bundle tucked inside a cave. How he kept the money, then turned the guy in for a $15 reward. I'm not saying our people weren't hungry. We were always hungry. I'm not saying who my grandfather was is who I am. What my mother wanted was to be far away from where she started. What my father wanted was to begin again. I'm telling you, the hardest thing I've ever had to do is to stop wanting what I already have. And then from a little later in the collection, a second story. My mother said she never asked again who her oldest brother's father was. Granny didn't want to talk about it. That's all we needed to know. So I made stories in my head of someone kinder than my grandpa. His lips not folded thin inside a nighttime scruff of peppered gray. I wanted that comfort for her, if not in life, in memory of a silken tangle of flesh hidden between tall rows of corn, back in Virginia where her people stayed. She never went back home, not even after Grandpa died, and finally she cut off her waist-length hair, let her daughter give her a home perm, soft curls around her neck. Years later, almost everybody dead, my aunt told me that old story. A widowed father stumbled drunk, grizzling himself into his daughter's bed. Her first name was Etta. Before I knew her, 10 children had torn through that secret place her father had claimed. And then a slightly longer poem, another story, this one very near the end of the collection. It's a prose poem. What I'm saying is, we've been stitched to this place a long time, and this place has always been complicated. Frayed seams are mended, ripped again. The stories I tell you now, embroidered patches, other lives to mine. So here I sit, trying to piece a poem from my maternal line, a row of names like the begats. Abyssine carried Elizabeth, carried Eveline, carried Sarah, carried Etta, carried Larney, carried me. Because we all know that most of what gets written is his story. even their names uncarved, as on the stone that does not mark my father's mother's grave beneath rough grass and bramble at the cemetery's edge. Pauline. But right there on the internet is my first New World grandmother, Margaret Dawson, Jamestown, 1621. It doesn't get more American than that. What with the plundering and the massacres, the first Africans enslaved. At 24 or 25, she left England as a good and faithful servant, a mail order bride before there was mail, to be wed for a price of 150 pounds of tobacco leaves. Her journey not made chained in the belly of the great white wooden Warwick, like those others erased. My DNA traces Cameroon, Congo, the southern Bantu. I have no claim to those I carry. Margaret outlived 3 husbands and left to my many great-grandfather 2 households with all movables and unmovables, including 1 yearling and heifer, 1 Negro woman, and all their increase to be his and his heirs forever. 9 generations later, Leslie County, Kentucky, Nancy Lewis and her Civil War widow appeal was down to 1 cow, 2 hogs, borrowed a mule to plow. At least nobody owned anyone anymore. My mother, when she died, owned the family graveyard, though she had lost the deed and made us promise not to plant her there. What I'm saying? I come from what's sown too deep in the seams to be picked out clean. And I'll end with a poem about Appalachia. It snows across the mountains of my homeland, snow over the green hills, the trickling creek beds, black rivers, the honeysuckled banks, snow over the August mountains, over kudzu climbing bent guardrails, ironweed purpling the spent fields, snow over the rusting tipples, the slashed hills, their seams of coal slicking through sandstone and shale, over barns shorn down to their timber, snow over empty schools and shiny clinics, over steepled churches and the flat-roofed Walmarts. In my dream, it snows ash, and we dance in our yards and in the parking lots, ash, and we spill out into our streets, down the rutted paths beneath the bridges, and to the road-sliced ridge, knowing it is ash, and knowing it is still beautiful, this falling snow. Thank you.
Pauletta, you are perpetually amazing. I could listen to you all evening.
Oh, thank you, Damian. I really appreciate that.
That's wonderful work. I love the way, I made a little note to myself at the very beginning. This sort of this insistent exploration of this complex, irrevocable connection between the past and the present. And I know this just runs the whole way through your work. It's such a powerful and nuanced statement about this sort of movement through time.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think it runs through my poems, my poetry in general, but I think I really felt it more in Heartbreak Tree at this time, perhaps than other times. My mother died in 2018, and I began the poems, most of the poems that were at least at the heart of this book, began about a year later. So while I was still really kind of sorting through being one of the elders in the family now, really as much as anything else. I mean, the loss of my mother, and I was her caregiver during her years of dementia. And so, a lot of sitting with and allowing those feelings. But then as I moved on from that, just a little bit more of a sense of where I fell within the lineage. And and also understanding that I will never be an ancestor. You know, I'm a woman in my 60s with no children, and so the sense of how do I speak of the past? How do I speak to the future? And I think that's really what Heartbreak Tree is looking at in many ways.
Well, I really, and this relates to what you just said, I really love the line about the hardest thing is to stop wanting what you already had. And I feel that so deeply. And I think that getting out of that cycle is just really difficult.
Mhm.
And Edda's story just breaks my heart. And I was thinking about, how many families have a similar story like that one. And the reason that that type of thing never stops is because
Mhm.
people can't speak of it.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
untold story because it hurts to tell stories like that, but I think it hurts worse to keep them.
Yeah. I agree. And this my aunt, who has also now passed away, told me the story while my mother had dementia, and I never knew, and I will never know if my mother knew that story, or if she just felt a tenderness and respect for Granny's choice not to speak it. You know.
Yeah, so what a dilemma
Hmm.
it is
Yeah.
to confront that. And then of course that brings me full circle almost to the last poem where you talked about the family graveyard and don't plant me there, don't put me there. And I think that goes all the way back to the beginning, this push and
Mhm.
pull about where we're from, who we are. Not we don't always want to be those people, but we are connected to
Mhm.
those people. And how do we manage all that as in our identities as people, as women, as human beings on this earth?
Yeah. Yeah. And it is terribly complex, and I'm still mining those veins. I have to say that I became fascinated with um, with this lineage that goes back to Jamestown, and the tobacco brides, the Jamestown brides, and have started doing more research on that. And I'm finding all these webs of connections. I mean, I think I probably have, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of kin. It's pretty much, we're all, we are all connected through the region in so many different ways. So I
Mhm.
don't know what I'm doing with that, but eventually I will just stop going down the rabbit hole of research and figure out what
I
I need.
always say that too.
Does
Yeah,
it ever happen?
no, and yet at 2 o'clock in the morning, you'll find me going, just one more. I know it's in here. I know it's in here. It's how gamblers become addicted, right? Yeah,
That's right.
win next time. I'm going to win next time. I'm going to find what I'm looking for next time. And, you just keep looking and you find more stuff, not what you're looking for, but sometimes better,
Right.
which is the exciting thing.
It
So,
is.
Yeah, but you're doing so. I mean, you're also like producing like amazing work. This sort of meditation on being the caretaker of generational memory, and there's the occasional nods to humor, and even if it's rather dark humor. That there was a mail order bride before there was mail. The sort of vis-a-vis, right up against all the other business going on. There's just, I think the mining you're doing is just producing amazing stuff.
Thank you, Damian. Thank you. And
and
you guys,
your fan club has arrived. There's a lot of people on. Greg
everybody.
Clary says, congratulations on the new journal launch. And hey, Pauletta,
Hey, Greg.
in there. um, and Karen Wyatt says, wonderful and powerful stories told in a rich lyrical voice. And she says she loves your poetry. I think we all love it. Then let's see who else is in the comments. Oh, Bonnie Proudfoot.
With her cute little grandbaby. Speaking of being an ancestor.
Yes, look at that. And she says stunning poems, of course. And Patricia Thresheart, one of our regular viewers, says powerful storytelling. And I think that's absolutely true. I talked to someone recently who said they didn't understand how I would say that poetry is storytelling. I'm like, have you read poems? Have you read a poem? It's just a different kind of storytelling than what you might imagine. So,
is that the person I saw you chasing down the street, hitting them with the Odyssey?
yeah, that's right. I'm gonna give you a thrashing. So thank you, Pauletta, for being on the show and for helping us celebrate the launch of Appalachian Lit.
Okay. Would you mind holding up your one more time? And
yes, there
Heartbreak
is.
Tree. And let me just say, speaking of Appalachian women, Angeline DeBoard is the painter.
Oh, that's lovely. That is really terrific.
Whatever this is, it's gorgeous. I actually now have the painting hanging over my fireplace too. I just couldn't get enough of it.
Very cool.
Oh
very
my goodness.
Yeah.
And who brought this out, Pauletta?
Pardon me?
Who brought this book out?
Madville Publishing.
Cool. They're bringing out some wonderful stuff. Kudos to them for
Thank you.
helping to get out in the world.
Yes.
Yes, they're a wonderful publisher.
Cool.
All right. Well, everybody, we'll see you next week. And
thanks a lot. What?
Do you remember offhand who's on next week, Damian? I think it's Joseph Bethanti. Yes, it is. He's one of our featured poets in the inaugural issue of Appalachian Lit.
Yes, I was going to say, and if you know Joseph's work, it's wonderful. If you don't know it, you have a chance to check some of it out at Appalachian Lit, and so please take a look at the journal if you're so inclined during the next week to check out Joseph's work and some other wonderful work as well. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and thank you, Pauletta, so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate what you do. Bye-bye.